Hi, Nicolle. I thought we'd be living through many developments together, but today is earlier than you might have expected. I know you've been covering it, but I really feel like everyone was reminded that facts can matter, reporting matters, materials that have been developed by an investigative process, some of which haven't come out, maybe still should, matter, and that there are limits still.
Yeah, I hope that's right, that there's limits and that there's a line. I remember in 2017 saying once the bottom's calling, it wants to know if we're there yet. And I don't know if that's it. I think what is true is that bad press still matters to Donald Trump. And so I think only time will tell if this was about too much bad press for this guy or if it was about an actual bottom. Because if it's about an actual bottom, there is an equally disturbing police report, I'm sure you've read every page of it, about Pete Hegseth's alleged sexual assault of a woman in Monterey, California. So if it's about a limit, then that limit should hold and apply to both of them. If it's about uniquely salacious and tedious and gross press and members of your own party talking about a guy who crushes ED medicine, blah, 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 then maybe it's just about bad press. But if it's, as you said, about a limit, then maybe it isn't the first.
Yeah, let me unpack what I think you're saying, and then I promise we'll let you go. Because, you know, I can't hold you.
I love this. I love it. It's so lonely out here. I love talking to you.
As our surprise guest for Nicolle didn't know she was booked for 10 minutes. But to unpack what you're saying, it's certainly true. And I take your note of caution about how much we interpret what is happening in real time. We always try to be that careful. But even if it is only, quote unquote, only that, what we call headlines, what the president-elect considers bad press, then there is still in there a line where, while he spent the better part of a campaign year attacking the press and crescendoing in the final 2 weeks to musing, or he would say, quote, joking about violence against the reporters who cover his rallies, all of that vitriol is still matched by the independent and hopefully accurate nonpartisan press mattering, because what's underneath those headlines is something that's true and that could not merely be willed away as, quote, fake news.
Yeah, look, both things are true, right? I mean, I think Trump is still a voracious consumer of his own press. And if he was satisfied by the pandering and the state media-like coverage he gets on Fox News and even farther to the right, we wouldn't hear him talk about the press, right? If Fox was enough for him, he wouldn't care about what was on any other network. It is not, and so we do. It is also true that he was reelected, even while we simply held up a mirror to the things he was saying and covered it fearlessly. It should be, I think, a signal to all of us to continue to be a mirror, right? To hold it up and show what he's doing. If there's even the slightest fact that the coverage of the facts about Matt Gaetz had anything to do with any of the calculations made by any of the Senate Republicans who said, no, I'm not going to do it, right? You can't prove that the coverage of Matt Gaetz, the two investigations by the Ethics Committee and by DOJ, had anything to do with their decision to say, no, this is a bridge too far. But you also can't divorce the fact that we covered Matt Gaetz, even at a moment when a lot of the commentary was that Matt Gaetz got the job to do retribution. And the conversations he was having with Republican senators, he said, and it was reported by Mark Capito, he said to a Republican, look, on week one, I'm not going to storm through with stormtroopers at MSNBC or indict Liz Cheney on week one. And they pressed him on that. So the threats against the press are a piece of the Trump strategy in these early days to try to chill the coverage. But it is possible that the coverage of the people Trump picked may have had something to do with stiffening the spines of some of those Senate Republicans.
Yeah, and then also today, unlike yesterday, setting the first line that even on a priority post like DOJ, they lost that round. They may put in someone who is as controversial or worse, and everyone has to deal with that. But again, they lost that round early. They didn't want another week, let alone months of this process, which is what the process is supposed to be. It is vetting, and it is the fourth estate for a reason. So good to have you. We've been covering this story I come to you as our first guest, in all seriousness, Michael, as what we call in the industry a heavy. Because you have been around big decisions and big brawls. We've been covering some of the details, and we can get into them tonight, including some of the serious allegations. But I come to you not as a lawyer, not as someone steeped in just the Senate confirmation process and which reports would come out. But big picture, what does it mean that Trump lost this round on this big post today?
You know, I think there's a little bit more to be seen here. I think on the face of it, for any president to lose one of their nominees right out of the gate, the way this one fell apart, would say something awful about the president's choices and the direction he was hoping to go with his administration. But I think we already knew that with Donald Trump. I think for a lot of folks, this is less of a story than the Washington press corps and others may think it is with voters out there around the country, because they voted for this. They knew what Donald Trump was. He came in saying, "Give me the power, and I'm gonna blow stuff up." And
well, let's dig in on that, Michael. They voted for, quote, this. Does that mean they voted for this type of person to get into office? Because here, this didn't happen. I just said to my colleague Nicolle, they may put someone up who's similar or as controversial, according to nonpartisan experts, or worse. We don't know. But this here does also collide with a kind of, at least a sloppiness or an inability to get your people in.
But wait a minute, Ari, the president from the former president and now president-elect said from the very beginning of his campaign and throughout his campaign as recently as the last week what he wanted to do. His goal was to bring in people. He wasn't putting a Mattis back in charge. He wasn't putting a Milley back in charge. He wasn't going to, find the next version of FBI, Director X or Y from his previous administration. He wanted people to come in who were first and foremost loyalists. Number one. That means if I call you, you do what I ask. As the House member said, if Donald Trump tells us to jump 3 feet, we jump 3 feet. That's what he's looking for. So don't hand me this, oh, we're surprised by the fact that he picked Matt Gaetz. Of course we're not surprised that he picked Matt Gaetz, and we won't be surprised at who he picks after Matt Gaetz. Now, the second piece of this, he made it very clear. I don't want my nominees to have an FBI check. Why